really admired his artistic talent and his ability to see the race, see a pit stop differently than anybody else. I mean, it's been as long as I've known him that he's been able to capture something different than everybody. You know, when you're physically seeing the pictures that he's taking and the pictures that he's making for his clients, it's impossible not to see what I'm doing and feel like I'm not living up to what he's able to produce at the same race. Like, I go to a race and I'm standing next to him and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, what are you taking pictures of? I don't see what you're seeing right now. And then later he'll post it on Instagram or show me, and I'm like, what the fuck, dude? Like, I was standing next to you and I didn't see that. And it's really frustrating because you're always, as an artist or just a human being, it's impossible not to compare yourself to others. And it doesn't matter if you're an amateur or professional, that's something that we all do. And whether you're an athlete or an artist, or it doesn't matter what you do. And so even as a professional photographer, I've done it for 10 years now, I'm still comparing myself to others and people like Drew that, you know, you feel like, man, I could have done this better and I could have seen it differently, or I should have tried something different or tried a different angle, and he's really good at that, and it's really frustrating, and I hate him. I didn't lie. I said, didn't I not say how much I hate you? No, but I also said that I hate you.
My interest in motorsport was definitely sparked by my family, both probably more on my dad's side. My dad used to do a bit of club rallying at very, you know, club level, went in the 70s, 80s sort of thing, had his own, did a bit of navigational rallies. My uncle rallied in there, but also just coincidentally on my mother's side, another uncle rallied back in the day, had a Escort that I've seen pictures of since. But I never felt as a child I was, you know, you get these racing dads that force their children down into a certain path, but I never felt like that was the case with my family. It was sort of always there. My dad sort of exposed me to a lot of things he thought I might like, you know, rugby, cycling a little bit, motorsport. I never felt like I was pushed into motorsport, but something just clicked inside me, particularly my brother. I've got an older brother as well, and he was as mad about cars and rallying and racing and motorsport as I was. You know, I mean, between the two of us, we were just car mad. We had thousands of toy cars. We would play, we had these little sit-on cars we'd race each other on. Everything was a race, everything was competitive. I think once my dad saw that, you know, the inevitable, that we'd been bitten by the motorsport bug, if you like, this is the path we were on, he did his best to support that, and he enjoyed it as well. Still, it was still a sport he was interested in. So yeah, we'd go off on the weekends, odd weekends, going and watching rallycross at Croft and club rallies on Otterburn, and then of course go and watch the RSC rally like so many people did back in the day. Yeah, as a little nipper getting squashed into backs of cars to go down and sleeping in the back of friends' 4x4s in Wales and things like that, and chasing, you know. And I think at that age, even if you don't like the cars coming past you, the whole thing of just being out with your dad in the countryside in the snow and the frost and going on an adventure with your sandwiches and hiking off into a forest and waiting for these noisy crash bang rally cars to come with glowing brakes and backfire and anti-lags and things, that you can't help fall in love with it. So yeah, it all, I'm afraid it was written in the stars kind of that I would end up doing something to do with motorsport, or certainly it would always be a big part of my life. The whole thing is just brilliant. I must admit, it is a great job. I look back at some of my early days, like working with Aston Martin Racing and things like that. Was, you know, to go from being a junior in an office covering races just for magazines and quite generic coverage really, to then go to be sort of immersed in a team where you've got the same people around you every day and every race, and you've seen your pictures on billboards and, you know, Gulf Oil putting them in garages and things like that, and suddenly to have that sort of exposure. And, you know, that still happens to me now, but when it was happening for the first time back then, that was pretty special, like to do it with a high level team like that. And it was a cool car as well, like that V12 powered LMP1 car, like what a machine. So a great group of people at that. A lot of young people were in that team when I was sort of similar age, and we were all sort of finding our feet and all sort of making it in the industry. So I really look back as that on a highlight. But there's been so many, you know. racing in America is always great fun. Macau is always like fantastic. I did the first ever year of the World Endurance Championship. You know, there can't be many photographers that have been in it since the start, basically, and that's been such a great championship to be involved with. The GT racing, you know, we've got a Spa 24 hours and you've got 60 GT3 cars, and you know, I've seen some crazy cars in that championship, like right from Morgans and things like that back in the day, right through to now, working with like privateer teams like Garage 59 and Beechstein Motorsport last year with the Aston Martin. Like, I've dabbled in F1 a little bit. That's always going to be a highlight. You've got the best drivers in the world, or certainly the highest profile sport. You know, it's one of the highest profile sports in the world, not just motorsport. So yeah, when you're on there and you've got like mates messengers saying you've been on the telly, and you know, I saw you in the background, I saw you on the grid, and you're like, oh, that's cool. And yeah, I almost need to go back. I'm almost looking forward. I'm not quite sure when it's going to happen, but I'm almost looking forward to a time when I can fully reflect on it. Because there's a lot of stuff that I'm sure I've forgotten about. That is, you know, just random little things. Somebody mentioned a shoot the other day that I completely forgot about, where I ended up with Serena Williams, the tennis star, and she was getting lent an Aston Martin for the week while she was at Wimbledon, but the shoot, she had to leave. But I had to, anyway, basically ended up in a helicopter with just like her and her agent. At the time it was just a job, you were just getting on with it. You're almost so focused on doing the job and doing the pictures that you get very absorbed in it. And you need that time and take a step back and have a reflect on it. But no, I've been very fortunate. I mean, I've mentioned a few things there, but there's so many more that I could go into. You know, I mean, even some little magazine shoots. I remember a few years ago doing just a feature about a rally car, but with Mika Hirvonen, who was like a guy I'd seen as I was growing up rallying, and having a ride in his Mark II Escort at the end of the day, and like stupid stuff like that. It just happens. Don't get us wrong, not every day is like that, but there's quite a lot of little things like that you tend to forget about that I would say were highlights. But I think if I had to just pull out a highlight, I think I'd just say getting involved with and reaching the level that I have in sports cars has been the highlight. I would say to have found an area of motorsport that I enjoy so much, and that I've been fortunate enough to make a little niche marketplace, and if you like, that is probably what I'm best known as, and it's probably the thing that I'm most proud of, I would say.
Perfect, thanks guys. Yeah, just done the Prema team shot, which is one of the teams that I work for here at Le Mans. It's not always the most creative photography, but it's really important to the team that we get it right. All our teams will have little requests like this. It takes quite a lot of time up during the week at Le Mans, but really important that we get it right. So thank you, Michaela. I'm here with my team that work with me. These are my clients, but I'll have Nick and Michaela, who I also have to, one of my jobs is kind of being a manager a bit this week of organising them guys. They're really good photographers in their own right, really know what they're doing, but I just have to I'm sort of the link between them and my clients, so I just need to make sure everything's getting, all the briefs are getting ticked off for sponsor requests and everything like that. Always try and be as creative as I can be, so once we've got the sponsor-friendly pictures in the bag for the team, with a nice opportunity there just for the drivers and just to use the time as wisely as we can. Has anyone got a 50 to do this on? Do you want? A race like Le Mans, time is precious, and access to the cars and the drivers, even when you're working with them, is quite difficult and quite precious, so it's just important to make the most of it. But it went really well, the sun was out, no horrible shadows to deal with, pretty straightforward as one of these pictures can be, and it's a kind of shot that people don't really notice when you do it really well, but everyone will notice immediately when you do it badly. So it's something you don't relax, you concentrate, you do it properly, professionally, and yeah, really happy with that. What do you want, Nick?
Have the driver sat in the car, it's quite nice, isn't it?
You've got to have your safe shots. You've got to tick the boxes first, and then that gives you the freedom to move on and do something, put your spin on it a bit more. You could definitely accuse Drew of getting angry very easily, on the face of it at least. He cannot tolerate and I would say for good reason, inefficiency or people doing things for the sake of it, which in motorsport can be quite easy to come across sometimes.
I think a little bit more 63, so the 63 car, a little bit more angle.
He shoots in quite a traditional way. He'll often, or he very rarely uses autofocus, so he'll pre-focus for a lot of on-track shots, which is something that I personally haven't done since the autofocus has been good enough. And the autofocus on his cameras is good enough to autofocus, but he prefers the reliability of the technique that he's shot for years.
Drew was, I suppose, in his early 20s, had just left college and was a mad, keen, racing, Formula One, rallying, all forms of motorsport fanatic. And he was also a budding photographer. At that time, I was the editor-in-chief of F1 Racing magazine, now GP Racing magazine, which was the best-selling Formula One magazine in the world at the time, and very, very picture-led. Obviously, we wanted the editorial and all the writing and the design and the graphics to be beautiful as well, but it made its name really because of the quality of its photography. And I'm thinking about photographers in Formula One who are now very famous in their niche, Darren Heath, Stephen T, Lorenzo Belanca, and many others. Also foreign ones, French ones, Bernard Assay, Paul-Henri Caillet, German ones, Rainer Schlegelmilch, etc., etc. And we didn't have a vacancy as a staff photographer, but we did have a vacancy for a staff picture editor. And Drew grabbed it with both hands.
Straight out of university, I got this position for 6 months on a magazine, which I thought nothing about at the time. I was like, yeah, I'll go to London for 6 months and do that. That'll be fun. I don't really know what a picture editor does, but I'm sure I'll pick it up. Go down there, have a bit of an experience down in London and see what's what, and then probably get a proper job when I come back to Durham, you know. Anyway, went and joined the magazine, had a fantastic 6 months, really enjoyed it. Wasn't taking pictures, but was right in the industry, you know, briefing photographers who were going away doing Formula One racing and talking to agencies, and so many elements of the industry I was exposed to during that job. And it was a great group of people. Matt Bishop was my editor there, who's become a good friend since, you know, which is quite a number of years later now. I'm trying to think how many it would be exactly. It's probably getting on for like 16, 17 years ago now. But yeah, did that, and then at the point when I should have left the magazine, Eddie, who was the girl that had gone away to have her baby, decided that she was just going to be a mother and do some freelance photography. So that was, you know, I was quids in then and in on the magazine. And technically then the magazine should have actually hired somebody who was qualified to do the job, but Matt really liked me, and I'd sort of fitted in well, and I'd applied myself and was working hard, and so... And as he pointed out later on, I was cheap because I was so young, so they just kept me.
He didn't really want to be a picture editor, but he could see the advantage to him of the proximity that it offered him to heroes of his, legends, brilliant practitioners in the field. And he would be able to deal with their transparencies, obviously, in those days, because we used to film on, use film, Kodachrome and Fuji Velvia. And then digital, when digital came in, and which we were quite sniffy about at the time, but now rules the roost. And all through that period, Drew immersed himself in learning, and also was a damn good picture editor. So it was great for him, and it was great for us. And then, eventually, we began to give him the odd photographic gig. You know, we wouldn't send him to the Monaco Grand Prix. He hadn't earned his spurs yet, but we did say, you know, there is going to be a test of, I don't know what, the McLaren team at Silverstone. Can you go down and do a few snaps?
And it worked really well for them, because he said the problem with having a picture editor before that was just a picture editor. Unlike other roles on the magazine, there was room for them to progress to. Well, as a picture editor, it was only really the picture editor's role. So at least with me, there was kind of an end goal of me exiting. You know, I had my motivation was elsewhere, so I could do a good job on the magazine, but also I knew I really would end up being a photographer. So yes, then F1 Racing magazine, so where I was picture editor, was under the same publication banner of Haymarket, which owned LAT Photographic at the time, which is a massive motorsport agency. They have the oldest motorsport archive in the world and huge name in motorsport. They were then and they are now. So I started going away for the races to them. So at one point I was working 7 days a week basically. So I'd do Monday to Friday for the magazine. Friday night I'd go and get a pool car from the agency, jump in a car, drive to Oulton Park or Snetterton or Donington. I'd do 2 days doing Formula 3 or British GT or touring cars or whatever I could. I was working for free. They were just paying my expenses, even though it was a big company. I just wanted to prove that I could do it and wanted to get the experience. So, which I still thought was great, actually, just getting my expenses and hotels and cars and everything like that, getting paid for just to go and learn photography, basically. So started doing that for them, got better and better, and actually became a bit of an asset to them to the point where they were having to, it was getting a bit awkward because they were trying to push F1 Racing to give me a bit more time to do the photography that they weren't paying for. So they'd be like, oh, can you get Friday off because we could do with you there Friday sort of thing. Can you go Thursday night, you know? And then anyway, a job came up at LAT, so it was just a natural, I had to apply for the job. I didn't get given it, but applied for the job, got the job. And so yeah, ended up working at LAT for, I did 4 years there at the agency. Really enjoyed it. Amazing group of people. Great place to learn. Made some great friends. Some great contacts in the industry. You know, they had us out every weekend. You know, you're getting paid a salary, so they want to get the money's worth out of you. So we were working hard there. It was fun, but we were working hard. So you were making a lot of contacts with people. You were out doing different projects, week in, week out. Drew a line under at end of 2011. I think I left quite amicably with LAT on good terms. I've worked on, you know, I've shot races for them since. So yeah, always had a good relationship with them. And always hugely grateful for the opportunity they gave me. But yeah, went freelance and set up my own company in 2012, which was a bit of a venture into the unknown. Had a few people promising me work, but you know, motorsport's a fickle business. You only need a few people to not have the things work out that they think are going to work out, and suddenly the work isn't there, as I've constantly found out since. But yeah, first year was huge. I remember going to Dubai for 24 hours in January 2012, which was my first month freelance, and doing like I think we stayed on and did some work with the Nissan Academy afterwards. And so I did like 2 or 3 weeks work straight off the bat in January, and I was away, you know, that was it. I've never stopped, and I've never looked back since. And I think I've never really marketed myself, you know, other than the odd email to a potential client when I thought the positioning is correct. Most of my work just comes through word of mouth, people I've worked with before, repeat clients, people who've worked at one project and move on to another. And yeah, you could almost draw a family tree back from one starting point of where, you know, leaving LAT with Aston Martin Racing basically being my only client at that point that I picked up off the back of my work at LAT. I can almost draw a line to every job that I've done since. It spreads out from that point from one person. There's odd people that see your work on Instagram, and it's really, here's an example. I worked at Beauty last year at, they have a supercar day, and out of the blue somebody emailed me and said, "Hi Drew, we've seen your work. We're looking to expand our marketing. We need a professional photographer." So I went along and, we worked out a fee, and I went along and did the job, and I said, "Oh, how did you come across it?" "Oh, we saw your work was credited from something that had been published at Goodwood. Goodwood's a similar event to ours, and we liked your work." That work at Goodwood came from a guy who got a job there doing PR, who was a journalist at Haymarket, which was where I started out. And, I've worked at Goodwood now as one of my biggest clients, and that all came, the guy isn't even there anymore that got me the job, but he left Haymarket. He didn't find that he was getting what he wanted from the photography they had, and he knew me, and that's how it all works. It's all just hard work and looking after clients and making sure you do the job at the right time with the right people, and you do the job to the best of your ability every time. And in many ways, that's my business card. That usually leads to other opportunities.
Motorsport in general is a very sensory activity. Fans for decades and decades throughout all of history of motorsport have come to the events looking for the sights, the sounds, and the smells. Certainly it's a visual overall experience for the fans, for our partners, for our participants. And so to have media outlets, to have talented photographers, videographers, capturing those visual elements, capturing the sensory experience, and then being able to distribute and help us tell those stories is absolutely mission critical. No matter what product we put on track, it's the ultimate ability of us to tell those stories outside of the motorsports community to the wider world of what an amazing opportunity it is to come to the circuit, to hear, to see, and to feel the passion and the experience that it emulates. IMSA has had a very rich history, over 50 years of providing amazing motorsports opportunities, safe motorsports events. Over the last couple of years, it starts with the product on track. We've had a foundation of manufacturer relationships, 18, more than any other sanctioning body in the world. It comes first with the cars that consumers identify with, the GT cars. Over 10 manufacturers competing in our GT series in the WeatherTech Championship. Ultimately then, the cars that become what's the future is the prototype division. And over the last several years, in conjunction with the technical team at the ACO, IMSA and the ACO have developed a common set of regulations to introduce hybrid technology into prototype racing for manufacturers to come in a cost-effective manner to design a prototype race car that looks their part. Stand up because I grew up around this sport, and I was the little boy on the other side of the fence. When I came as a manufacturer for the first time and brought our brand back to competition, the first group of individuals that welcomed me back were the photographers and the videographers and the journalists that capture our moments and tell those stories. People that have had award-winning careers in photography, the Jamie Prices of the world, the Richard Princes of the world, the Sideline Sports individuals, Mike and Leslie Stallsmith. These people have been with us for decades, but it's guys like Jamie, guys like Drew Gibson that put themselves right in the thick of it, right in the line of action to try to capture those moments.
I think taking a lead from Darren Heath, who in the 90s and noughties had revolutionised Formula One photography and therefore racing photography, because Formula One is so dominant in the space. Taking Darren's lead, I think Drew realised that the art of racing car photography was about the light of racing car photography. I remember that there was a time when racing car photographers used to worry about shooting into the light and would always want the light behind them. Whereas Darren, and then Drew, and now others of course, but Darren first and Drew was one of the others who took Darren's lead, realised that you can shoot into the light and make something that's almost painterly and beautiful, that will please, if you like, people who love photography just as much as people who love racing. And Drew is now doing that par excellence, leading practitioner in that field, making WEC, World Endurance Championship, sports car racing, one of the most photogenic sports in the world.
I mean, it's hard to say that anyone copies anyone. I mean, a lot of what we've done has been done before, and I'm sure even a lot of the pictures that I take, I'm 100% sure that a lot of pictures I take, you could go back and, you know, you'd probably see similar pictures to what we're all kind of reinventing things along the same theme, if you like. But yeah, obviously I try and keep things as original as I can. I try not and be influenced. Not influence, I don't want to copy anybody else's work, you know. I mean, I admire other people's work and I see other people's work, and in motorsport and outside of motorsport, you know. I'm not just talking about looking at motorsport photography. And yeah, there are some hugely inspirational, you know, I love Instagram as much as the next person for looking through and seeing fun things, but for me, again, it's I would say it's not too annoying. I don't really get annoyed if somebody goes out, like, I think it's almost odd if somebody goes out and takes exactly the same picture I've taken or does it in the same way. And, you know, I get these guys asking, you know, where was that and what settings did you have on for that? And I think, like, well, I could tell you, but anyone could take that picture if I stood where I was with the settings on the same camera. Like, you know, I could take a stranger off the street and walk them to that spot and give them and say, look, this is how you do it. But I don't see what satisfaction those people would get out of that. I wouldn't get any satisfaction out of doing that. And again, that's not to say, you know, there's some classic pictures that I'll go and do, you know, that are just great shots that you go and do. But I think it's like you say, it is quite straight. I just find it quite strange more than anything else. But in terms of how I react to that, one, it really doesn't bother me. I've been there, I've done that, I've ticked it off. If I've created a shot or found a new location or something like that, cool, like, that's great. I've done my job, you know. It's kind of an endorsement, if you like. And then how do I move on from that? How do you, again, it's just self-motivation and almost just keeping my own interest, if you like, that I'm not interested in even a great shot, even a shot I'm really pleased with. If I've felt I got the best out of it on that day, if the light was perfect and the car was right and it was the client car, and if it's a technically difficult shot and you get it pin sharp or the car's just moving in a certain way and it just works perfectly through the frame, if all that's done, it's all come together and it's all fine, which isn't always, you know. Sometimes I'll revisit a spot and I think that was great, but it would be great if it was like early morning. I bet the sun's coming in from either angle, or I bet that patch of light is slightly further forward where the wheel was off the floor rather than slightly further back where I had to shoot it. And little bits like that. So you sort of learn and you take a mental note, like, yeah, if the timetable's similar next year, I might have another bash at that. So there's little bits like that. But if I've got something and I'm totally happy with it, I think, you know, that's you know, calendar-worthy portfolio shot. That's kind of right, ticked off, what do we do now? And some of my favourite pictures are almost the ones where you go to places at the wrong time of day, or, you know, you do almost the opposite of what is natural to people. If you go to somewhere where people say, oh, there's not really, you know, in the middle of the day at Bahrain, for example, nobody likes shooting in the middle of the day at Bahrain because it's famous for those beautiful, gorgeous Middle Eastern sunsets with low light and soft contrast, and a lot of contrast, but nice soft light. you know, golden racetrack. We all love shooting them stuff, and so, and it's a, you know, it's a magical time of day to take pictures, and everybody goes to Bahrain. But actually, some of my favorite pictures, if you go out in the middle of the day in Bahrain, it's like harsh sunlight, you're squinting, but if you can find a picture to do at that time of day and it works, I bet that's one that the client says, because they haven't seen it before, you know, they've seen all the sunsets and they've seen all that, and you know, it's fine. But I almost like to challenge myself now and do the opposite of what everyone else is doing and just chase these slightly different pictures. And when I say everybody else, I mean not everybody else. You know, there's a lot of great photographers out there that I'm not trying to say I'm a trailblazer or anything like that, but yeah, I try and do almost the opposite of what I maybe would have done 10 years ago when I was starting out, and not choose the obvious route, and yeah, try and chase a slightly different angle.
How is everything?
All right, yeah, quite a bit on, but fine. It's Le Mans, so just the way. So
I know you were busy for record.
it wasn't so bad, but just a late finish because it's obviously raced midnight finish, and then 1 hour for the podium, and then 3 hours for the edit. So 5 a.m. finish. It's fine. I was doing a shot at Rickard. I only needed one car. All four were going round, and I just kept needing this one car. And every lap, it would catch them on where I was and go between them. And on like the third time it did, I just went like, "Ah, come on, give me a chance." So that would have been a good little moment to be cameraed up for.
You're all going to be on the ground, so all you're going to see is front row of the trophy. That's all you're going to see.
Ferdinand Habsburg, and I'm a racing driver. I race in the LMP2 category since 2021. I have won the World Endurance Championship in 21. I won Le Mans in 21. I won the Asian Le Mans Series also in 21. In 22 I won the European Le Mans Series. And this year I'm trying to compete again for the World Endurance Championship. Before then I raced in the DTM Championship and in Formula 3 with various results on the way. On a superficial level, it's important to have something to give your sponsors the right feeling that they're putting their money in the right place, that they've hedged their bets correctly, that they can feel proud of their investment, of their partnership. Then on another level, you know, like mostly you're alone at the track. Maybe you have a friend or maybe a family member, but I have a large family. I have like 600 family members that all in one way or another support me, and to have a picture to send to them is always something quite special.
Looking up over there somewhere?
There is a weird moment when you're having success where either you're having a moment of like blissfulness, and there's no other way to say it than to say that moment, and where you just simply can't see anybody else. You're purely in an experiential moment in your life, and when someone captures that moment, that gives you goosebumps every time you look at it. And so that's the more meaningful capturing that's important to me. But that happens very rarely, I would say. Even when you start to win multiple races, you start to see cameras, you start to notice people capturing the moment, and then there is an element of posing. And that's a really tricky thing, because you don't want to pose because it's ridiculous. But it's not, it's part of your job. But you never pose when you're in that moment where it's like you win the 24 hours of Le Mans, or you win your first race, or you win. I remember for me it was my first time I won a Formula 3 race here in Spa, and Drew captured a picture of me standing on my car, and I don't even remember what I saw, I just remember how I felt, and that picture reminds me of that feeling. So that's like the more thing that means something to me, so that I have people there that are talented at capturing those moments to help me in my life, to remind me of those special days, I guess. I remember seeing pictures of Bentleys and Porsches driving in the wet. I don't know why in the wet he plays with light in a way that you know it's Drew's picture, even if it's not tagged or it's printed somewhere. You know it's Drew's. So in difficult situations, he maximizes the work. The thing is that cameras and filters have gotten so good that in any normal situation, to be honest, and to be harsh to Drew, I can really take any photographer, because his picture, I mean, everybody knows the same places, knows the same settings, you know, it's the same. But Drew excels in difficult situations. Those darkening lights, those special moments, those flashing lights, the water, when the car's moving, he knows exactly where to be, and he doesn't mind to stand in the wet for a while to get it. So I think that's what makes him special. And also, he is just one of the most charismatic guys as well. So when you're working with him and you're not doing anything, you're just putting on your helmet or you're getting ready to go in the car, you're almost feeling more comfortable when he's there. Normally when somebody's there with a camera, there is a part that makes it more static, like you feel watched, you know? There is a lens there. And with Drew, you feel relaxed, it's easy, you know? He's just gonna do his thing and I'm gonna do mine, and we can like bump fists before I get in the car and I feel good.
Best picture you've ever taken in your life.
Just like drivers deciding what tyres to go on a sort of day where it's mixed conditions, I'll change my mind about 15 times about what to wear and what to ride in, but in the end it probably makes not a lot of difference. Just get on with it when we get out there. Yeah, it's funny in cycling, you know, one top that's marginally thicker than the other can make a big difference, but yeah, just get on with it. It's a nice dry day anyway, so that's good. Takes one of the decisions out of it. So people out today will just be doing it for a bit of fun really, and not even bothered about setting a time. So obviously it's not really a proper race, so I'll try and set a decent time, see how I get on, but I'm not taking it mega seriously. This is more important for training for future events. To hat or not to hat? That is a question.
First hill coming up here is Halewood. It's nice and the centre to get you warmed up. Make sure you're in your small gear going down. When you come out of the back of the circuit, my marshal is there, he'll see you out onto Scratcher's Lane. Take care going across the A20. The first descent in about 10k is X downhill. It's a fast descent, you will pick up speed without realising it. Thank you.
When it finally stopped and then rang out.
You know when traffic light before Sunbury? Yeah, it's good. It's really nice being on a circuit actually, quite surreal on a bike. As the tarmac's really fast and sort of loads of space, so that was good. So I kind of knew straight away that the group that I was setting off with wasn't going to be any help, so I overtook them all straight away. Then went out on the Grand Prix circuit, went out the back. Quite really surreal, like being in such a familiar place, but in such a different circumstance. But good fun. And then yeah, got out on the road. Roads were pretty dry. Legs felt pretty good.
How's the new bike?
Oh man, what a weapon! It's unbelievable. Like my previous bike was fast and nice, but this one it's got electronic gears and just sometimes, I mean, especially the climbs in Kent, they're not like climbing a mountain, you know, it's all or nothing. It's, you know, 15-20% or straight up, straight down, and when you go for that gear, just have that electronic shift and it just clicks in, and then little bits on the brakes when they're just so consistent with them disc brakes. So Yeah, it was good. I mean, it should be for what I paid for it, but it was an absolute joy to ride. And yeah, it was a marshal actually. As I started, he saw me in the starting pen, and he was like, "Oh, it's one." He knew what it was, and like he said, "Oh, beautiful bike," and it's always a nice little feeling, you know. I mean, because a lot of people have nice bikes now, and it's always a nice feeling when somebody makes the effort to sort of say, "Oh yeah, nice," you know. Yeah, I'm quite particular with everything, and I'm very particular with how I spec my bikes and the colours and getting everything to match. And you know, anyone can go out and spend a load of money on a bike, but getting it to sort of stand out but not be too shouty is, you know, a little bit proud of that. That's a good aim. Back on the side window.
I think I like to always look at things from a different angle and different perspective. Try and look at the way that someone else is tackling something. And even if my way isn't better, I get a real pleasure out of doing something differently or that hasn't been done before, even if it fails massively. Nothing gets in his way, you know. He won't stop for a chit-chat in the paddock, you know. If I hadn't seen him for 6 months and we bumped into each other in the paddock and he was on his way to take a photo, he'd say, "I'll see you later." Like, he's very focused, and I think that comes across. He's trained in photography at university, and you can see that in his work. If you look at a lot of Drew's work, you'll see his use of light and dark. So when the mechanics are pushing the car out of the garage, you'll get that perfect moment when the light is just glistening on the eye, or half in shadow, half in light, or the car, he'll get the exact point on the car where the shadow breaks through the perfect point of the curve, and you can see that that's someone who has studied photography. That's where his work looks different. It's more curated and more considered. And also that when we work together particularly, we create a storyboard for the weekend before we go there. When we worked together at Bentley, I remember even looking back at the Dropbox that he put in, I thought, I've used every picture. And that's not through luck, it was because I said, right, I need a picture for this, and we'll plan it all in advance. So if it's Spa 24 hours, for example, and I know that on Saturday night I'll need a sunset shot. I'll say, right, there's a free practice session on Thursday at sunset. Get the sunset shot, save it, put it out during the race. So we're always planning for the future. We'll save pictures back for the qualifying press release, for example, and I'll say to him, right, we don't know what the weather's going to do at Spa. So in free practice, I need every car in the dry. If it rains, get me every car in the wet. So after qualifying's finished, my press release can go out with a photo, and he hasn't got to rush to do his work, because there's one thing that will get Drew angry, and it's if you rush him. We laugh about it because he's always the last one in the media centre. We used to car share quite a lot, and had some long nights sitting next to him in the media centre eating his Haribo. But yeah, that's I'd say a big difference is it's more like, you know, curated art than point shoot and see what I get. His philosophy is he doesn't know where those pictures are going to end up. Once you put them in that Dropbox and you send the link to the client, because it doesn't just go to me, it could go to the marketing team, you know, maybe up to 10 people within the department. Someone could take that photo and blow it up on the side of hospitality at Le Mans, and he's got to walk past that every day with a speck of dirt on the lens. Maybe only he will see it, but every photo that goes out, even if it's just for social media, it's only on Twitter, so the resolution is going to be low anyway. He delivers every single picture as if it's going to be blown up on the wall. But I think when you're organised, I don't need hundreds of pictures. I just need 10 or 20 each day that help me tell the story, and that's where Drew's great as well. Is you can only kind of decide the narrative so much before you go to the race, because obviously you don't know what's going to happen. So there has to be an element of spontaneity, and having that trust in him that he is thinking for me as well. So when he's out on track and sees something, he knows that that will be of interest to me. And so every picture that goes in the Dropbox has a purpose. It's not just a picture. He knows exactly what it's for. And when he puts it in the Dropbox, he doesn't even have to tell me what it's for. I open, I go, God, well done. Yeah, that's what I needed.
order, I am an order. That's how I stand.
Yeah, but me too.
I know. We just need a bit more of an organised line. Everyone's a bit like more like stood shoulder to shoulder. Am I doing arms like that? Arms like that.
Together we avoid a lot of we had it at Sebring a couple of weeks ago shooting for Porsche, and we've been planning it for weeks. We had this rig shot, one car against the wall, the other coming as if it's chasing it behind. We had it planned for ages, and then we looked at the weather forecast for the night we had it planned, and it was like washout, you know, Florida storm style washout. I said, we can't do this, we've got to do it. So go and pull the team together. Guys, I need the car 24 hours earlier. And of course it's the first ever race with the new Porsche 963. The team boss is looking at me like, are you serious? And engineers and mechanics at that point, they want every minute with the car that they can, and luckily they trusted us that what we were going to do was magic, and we had 30 minutes down from an hour that we'd been given the following night. So we did it in 30 minutes, and it was like watching clockwork because we'd planned it so meticulously. There was no questioning of what angle are we going to use, where are the cars. And Drew just, honestly, it was like watching an absolute artist at work. 30 minutes later, boom, yeah, done, in the can, car's back in the garage. So yeah, I'd like to think we've avoided most of the low moments together.
When I'm out on my bike, like often I'll be thinking over shoots like this that I know are coming up, and I'll think, oh, where can we go? And then I'll think, oh yeah, that's got like, there's nice painted lines here, so a lot of it is about being prepared, and as long as in my mind I know I've done everything I can do to be as prepared for that moment, it allows me to handle the unknowns when I get there. But it helps working with great people as well. Obviously we were working with Rebecca there, so in the build-up, I've been communicating with her, telling the team to have a battery pack with the car or having the car fully charged so we can have the lights on, because it doesn't sound like a big deal, but at night, a shoot like that hinges on the fact that you can switch the lights on the car. If you get there and that can't happen, you know, but it's not in the team's instincts to do that. If the car's flown here we were in Japan last time, so if a car's come here from Japan, it's a race car, it may well not have full charge in the battery, so it's not like a road car. So communicating with Rebecca, who communicates with the team, so a lot of it is in the build-up, and then on the day, I try to keep as calm as possible. There's usually some people flapping around anyway, so it doesn't need me to be doing that, so it just adds to the chaos. So I just try and be as calm, as clear as I can be. Most of the teams I work with English isn't their first language, so just speak clearly, give clear, concise instructions, don't fool around, don't make a joke, don't say, oh, I didn't mean that, I was just messing around. Like, there's no time for that. Like, it's a serious business, it's important. These pictures are important, you know, the manufacturers only come racing to get publicity out of it. That's the sole purpose of a manufacturer, of spending millions of pounds to come racing. So yes, they want to get results on the track, but if nobody knows they're here, if nobody's taking pictures like the ones we were doing on Wednesday night, there's no point in them being here. So yeah, it's fun. It's enjoyable working with a team like that, but it is a serious business, and them cars are worth millions of pounds, and the people who are employed to work on, you know, every minute that car's out there is a lot of money's worth of people's time.
The start of any working relationship, you just have to build the trust, and with Aston Martin it was, 6 years, Bentley 6 years, so over those years, at the beginning it's slowly, and then once they've seen you achieving things, then the trust just comes, and then you begin to take leadership and take. The big thing about working with manufacturers is you are promoting not just a brand, but road car products as well. So it's about taking all the strategies and the brand values, and again, not just talking about the race that's in front of us, but how can that race in front of us help to sell more cars or to promote the brand in the way that the brand wants to be promoted. It's always having that bigger picture, because at the end of the day, someone somewhere is spending a lot of money for that car to be on that track, and you have to deliver. There has to be a return on that investment. And as a sports car fan, and Drew feels the same, as sports car fans, You never want to see a manufacturer program fail. It feels like a failure to all of us when someone withdraws from a sport, because we should have made it more appealing or more attractive as a whole.
Now there's so many events stacked on top of each other. This year, for example, you know, I'll go to Paul Ricard, and literally I'll finish at Paul Ricard on Tuesday afternoon, have to rush to the airport, fly back here. I'll have had to have packed my gear for Sebring before I've left for Paul Ricard. I'll just take a few items out that have been in Paul Ricard, go to bed, get up early the next day, fly to Paul Ricard, land in Paul Ricard, drive to the accommodation. Next day we'll be doing all the season preview, portraits, and it takes it out of you, and I think it takes a certain level of ability and commitment and organisation to not just do the travel and get your feet in the right place, but once you're there, to completely switch your brain around and suddenly try and do the best day's work you've ever done. You know, in many ways it's an achievement just getting your feet stood in the right place. It would be very easy just to get there and go, I'm here, let's just get these pictures done, sort of thing. But especially the sort of the profile that I've carved out for myself, I can't do that. You know, I've got to be on a certain level that people expect of me and that clients expect of me every time. And yeah, it's physically and mentally it's quite a tough gig, but fortunately the good parts far outweigh the worse. I didn't actually answer the hotel question there, did I? Shall I answer the hotel question?
Yeah, one.
Ah, man, I mean, there's a big long list, to be honest. I mean, we're quite often arranging these travel quite late, and all the race teams have got in there, and a lot of the places we're going there aren't that many places to stay anyway. So when you get a big race team, what's the actual worst? Fuji wasn't great last year, I must say. It was kind of a weird double building situation, and we kind of built this tunnel between them, but the tunnel wasn't really full time, and when it rained it just filled with water, and they just put all these towels down to go between. But there's been all sorts. We booked in a pub at Goodwood, which seemed quite nice, but then at 11 o'clock a rock band started. That was underneath the room, so we didn't really sleep much that trip. Also at Goodwood we stay on site sometimes, and at Festival of Speed we'll go to bed at about 3 a.m, 4 a.m. when we've finished editing pictures, but then the security guys are getting up at 5 a.m, having showers and going out to start opening up the event. So we don't really sleep much there either. Yeah, there's been a few, stayed in a few. South of France is obviously a very nice place to go, but I've done a few winter tests there where you stay in hotels that are clearly built for the summer, and there's basically no insulation, you get given your wafer thin bed sheet and your tea towel size pillow, and there's a gap in the windows like that, and the curtains are blowing like that, and you think, yeah, this wasn't in the brochure. But yeah, usually when I'm at a regular racetrack, I've got my favourite places that I like to stay, and I've got that down pretty well. But occasionally I can get caught out by the odd place that's less than glamorous.
Probably been out working for 30 hours, probably not a lot to eat, very little sleep, but at that point to still have that creativity while everyone else is just shooting the car from the same angle. He's been able to find the story, find the angle, and make it beautiful at the same time.
I would say Drew's work ethic, which I think sometimes could be easily confused by him being stubborn, you know, wanting to hog the limelight kind of figure, but that's not actually who Drew is. It's his work ethic. Like, he will deliver for the client. Delivering for the client is the most important thing, regardless of everything else, and delivering good photography in that process. Certainly that was something that, coming from people I'd worked with before, you perhaps would choose an option that made your life easier, but that's not something that Drew encourages in his work ethic. The aim is not to make your life more difficult, the aim is to do it well, because that's what we're there for. He just lives and breathes it, and it takes a bit of time to get used to, and you know, the hours that we keep working late in the day, fairly routinely, the last people to leave the media centre by a fair chunk as well. But I would like to think at least that the results that the clients get demonstrates why we do that.
It's finding the moments within the race, you know, the pivotal moments, not just, you know, it's high noon and here's a car coming around the corner, but finding those moments where the drivers look exhausted or there's a pit stop that matters, sunset from a different or unique angle, or even shooting it with a different shutter speed that might make your picture stand out from the other 600 photographers that are here. And it's kind of a moving target that you're always chasing. It's not something where I'm never satisfied with what I've done and how I'm capturing a race, because you always feel like you can do it better. I mean, you could ask my wife and she would tell you, yeah, Jamie's never happy with the pictures that I come home with, because I'm not. And I'm always feeling like, could have done this better, I could have done that better, I could have gone here, I was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. But you have to kind of, and I try and remind myself, and she does a good job of reminding me too, but taking a step back and remembering how important the race is that we're covering. I mean, this is the 100th, you know, Le Mans year, and that's important. And it's not just documenting every car that comes past, but the essence of this race, the essence of any race that we go to, is about the fans and the drivers that are there, and the weather and the circuit and how the circuit has or hasn't changed. And those things matter in documenting a story through photographs, because at the end of the day, the broadcast pictures, the TV pictures, you know, they're okay, but it's from static locations around the track. It's not necessarily artistic in nature, it's just very documentary. But photographs, if you walk around the museum, you look at the photographs, and that's what people will look back on. They'll look back on, you know, Fernando Alonso and Kazuki Nakajima and Sebastian Buemi climbing out of the car and winning Le Mans for the first time with Toyota. And there's something in that you can't just replicate with a broadcast TV camera. It has to have been documented with a digital camera or film camera, whatever you're using, that tells the story of that race and only that race.
I am my biggest critic, and I'm sort of conscious of that, but I also don't mind that. Like, I think the only way to really improve is to, you know, if you're coming back from sessions and looking at your work and thinking, I've nailed this, like, this can't be better, you aren't actually going to get any better. So yeah, I'm really critical of myself, and over the years I've kind of realized that I'm a bit of a perfectionist in all areas of my life. And when you take a step back and admit that to yourself, it makes it easier to be happy with what you achieve. But certainly in the beginning, I didn't really realize that. I just was self-critical of myself, but I didn't really acknowledge it. And so then you just sort of beat yourself up a bit, almost for no reason. Whereas now I can go like, well, you know, it's a good picture. Like, it's maybe not, it could be better. It could, but that's pretty good. Like, yeah, I'm pretty happy with that.